good, you goons? Big Coom here. So today I'm going to be talking about why Jax Support is a legitimate pick and not just some stupid meme on r/Draven. So let's get into it. Oh, this video is in addition to that stupid meme Jax Support video that I made. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out so you have some context as to what I'm talking about. And now that everyone's all caught up, let's keep it moving. So why are you going to pick Jax Support? So Jax has the strongest level 1 of any melee support, bar none. Counter-Strike is one of the most broken abilities in the game, and at level 1, when people just have one ability, it's very overpowered because auto attacks are the primary method of dealing damage, and you're negating it entirely. If you walk up and land a stun at level 1, you proc electrocute with your auto attacks and the Counter-Strike active, and you use ignite, you're going to burn 2 summoners, maybe even the support's exhaust or the support's heal, or the support uses their ignite trying for some retaliation. But at that point, the AD carry is already at like 1/3 HP and it's just a lost trade. At that point, you have total lane control, you have total lane dominance, and you get level 2 first. And Leap Strike's range, Jax's Q, is deceptively big, and AD carries and supports don't know it that well, so you can really abuse the lack of knowledge that's going on here. And you Leap Strike onto him with your Counter Strike ready to go. You proc Electrocute again. I don't know why the cooldown's so low at level 1, but it is. And you just get him. Easy kill. And then the game is over. Well, not the game, but the lane. The enemy AD will just be too far behind because they'll be level 1, you'll be level 3, you'll have hardly taken any damage, and you can either stay in lane and press the advantage, or you can recall and get a Ruby Crystal and some pink wards. The jungle won't be able to gank if they're pathing from top to bot because you'll be gone at best. At best, the jungle could just get Scuttle Crab and look for a gank mid. So yeah, Jax Support's early game, early lane phase is unmatched. It's like Alistar, but you're not totally useless until you hit level 2. You do a lot more damage, you have comparable early game CC, and you have a lot more playmaking potential because you can ward hop with your Leap Strike to pull off some plays that would otherwise be unable to happen with conventional supports. Jax actually has a lot of poke in lane because you can Leap Strike in, auto attack, W, proc electrocute, and then you can just walk away with Counter Strike. There's really not a whole lot they can do unless you're playing against a mage bot lane, and if you see the enemy pick a mage, then Jax Support probably isn't the best move, but he deceptively has some poke, has a good amount of poke. And something else that's deceptive about Jax is that if you build him tanky, he gets really tanky really quick. His level 1 ultimate is comparable to Alistar's rank 1 ultimate. Of course, Alistar, his ultimate outscales because the damage reduction percentage just gets bigger and bigger and bigger as the game goes on, and Jax's is just like a flat armor and MR increase. But at rank 1, it's about equivalent to an Alistar ultimate because you'll be getting about as much armor and magic resist to hit that same percentage threshold that Alistar is with his rank 1 R. I know I'm comparing to Alistar a lot, but that's the most meta support that Jax is akin to. His cooldowns, his Counter-Strike cooldown, his Leap Strike, his Empower are a lot shorter than Alistar's QWER. So you'll be taking a lot more trades, and they're a lot faster. So that's why Jax goes really good with AD carries that have burst damage or poke damage, like Varus, Sivir, Misfortune. I like Tristana too because she can W in and E and just really rail off a lot of damage before the enemy can really react that much. Yeah, Leap Strike is just a really overpowered ability if it's put into a support role because there's a lot more playmaking potential that you can use with it compared to other supports where you need to be locked on to a target, whether it be an enemy champion, a minion, or something like that. Jax can do it with wards, and since you're a support, you have a bunch of wards in your inventory, so you can get really crazy and really snazzy and really fancy with types of plays that you can make with Jax Support. It's just a matter of how creative you are. So in summation, Jax is a really good early game lane bully that can snowball a game out of control. He has some really great mobility and playmaking and gank setups. His early tankiness is very, very good. and he can trade very well with almost any lane matchup and any AD carry. Now, with all of the good stuff, let's talk about the bad, his weaknesses. So, we're going to keep using Alistar as a comparison. Jax really falls off in terms of utility and tankiness. He falls off, I want to say at like level 9 or level 9, 10, 11, that sort of area, that sort of mid game. His Counter Strike stops being as effective because people are getting more cooldown reduction. Their abilities are hitting more. They can use them more frequently. So the usefulness of that skill, unless you're exclusively fighting against auto attack champions, kind of diminishes. And the CC itself isn't that long. So at mid game, you would rather have Alistar than Jax Support. But if you've snowballed with Jax, the game's already over and you don't need to worry about it. He gets peeled really easily in the late game because unless you're really flanking, you're ward hopping, you're flashing, you're hex flashing, whatever it is, it's really telegraphed what he wants to do because you see the Counter-Strike animation start up and you know, okay, he's looking for a leap strike, he's trying to do something, and then you just either walk away or you have some sort of CC land on him and then he's kind of useless until his Counter-Strike is up in another 8 seconds. I kind of touched on it with that last point, but in order to be as productive as some conventional engage CC support, you really need to be finding those crazy flanks and crazy plays. It's not very consistent. It's not a very consistent type of engage because of how much you need to think about what you're going to do. All right, and with strengths and weaknesses covered, let's talk about the runes and the build. We're going to do the build first because it's kind of simple. It really explains itself. You want Chem Tank because you need the extra mobility for engaging, and the stats that it gives is everything that Jax would want if he's playing in a supportive role. You want the AD HP ward item because those are the stats that Jax needs. You don't go the AP one because his scaling on his basic abilities is not as good as his AD scaling. Like his AD scaling is like 80% for most of his abilities, and the AP scaling is like 50 or 40 or 30, something like that. So you want the 80 HP one. Boots is just whatever you're up against that game, whatever the best thing is. If you're playing against ADs, get the steel caps, APs, Merc treads, you know how it goes. And you want Zeke's Convergence because the person you're bound to, the debuff or the buff to where your bound character deals more damage to them only lasts 8 seconds, and by the time you get Zeke's Convergence, your Counter-Strike cooldown is going to be like 8 seconds after its second cast, so it will just permanently be on the person you're focusing. And his build skill order, you want to do Empower first, just for lane presence, Counter-Strike second, and Leap Strike third. You want the Empower max first, because it's, as you rank it up, it just does significantly more damage than anything else, and if you're playing Jax Support, you're trying to snowball, and you really need that damage to dominate your lane opponent. Counter-Strike second, because you're a support, you need the utility, and Leap Strike last because, in my opinion, the cooldown reduction from ranking it up just isn't that impactful, and you're going to be getting a decent amount of cooldown reduction through your item build in the first place, so I think it'd just be redundant, and of course, max your R whenever you can. Also, we only talk about the Chem Tank, Zeke's, the ward item, and boots, because if the game progresses to where you can get a third item as a support, you've probably already lost. But something that I like to do, it probably isn't very good, but I like to get the top laner items and start acting as a normal Jax and be a split push threat, so that the enemy has to actually send a solo laner or a jungle or an AD carry to answer me, because my stats and abilities are just too much for any conventional support to handle. So if your team is fighting over Baron, the enemy team is going to be fighting with a hypothetical scenario. They're going to be fighting with their jungle, their mid, their AD carry, and support. Their top laner won't be there, and if you're quick enough, which you will be with Chem Tank, Boots, Leap Strike, You can counter the teleport, not counter the teleport. You can cancel the teleport if you see it happen, and keep them in the lane with you. And then your top laner, jungle, mid, and AD carry can just clean house. Next is going to be the runes, and this is probably the most, I don't want to say controversial, but most eyebrow raising thing about the build. You want to take Electrocute instead of Aftershock, because by the time your Counter-Strike is over and the CC has procced and your Aftershock is up, the trade is almost over. Like, the enemy won't be hitting you. They will either be running away or you will be running away. And with your Leap Strike, with a Flash, if the trade's going bad, the Aftershock won't really get much value. And if you are sticking on them to try and get the damage proc afterwards, Electrocute is just better at that. It just does more damage. And you want Sudden Impact instead of Cheap Shot, because you're going to be Leap Striking a lot more, and the lethality and Magic Pen boost is a lot higher damage yield than the the CC Cheap Shot. You know what I'm talking about. Eyeball Collection and Ultimate Hunter. You want Ultimate Hunter because without your ultimate, you're really not that tanky, and you're gonna want it up almost every fight after laning phase so that you can stick to whoever you're hitting and not just get blown up instantly. Because at the end of the day, you still are a support, even though supports are getting tons and tons of gold for doing nothing. You still have to keep that in mind. And you go attack speed, adaptive, and either armor or MR, depending on what kind of lane you're in. I always go armor because I'm not good at the game. And you want the attack speed rune because without it, Jax really doesn't do as much damage, because his passive, the Relentless Assault, it really gets a ton of value. And the additional adaptive rune isn't as good as the attack speed one in terms of producing damage. The secondary rune tree is really up to preference. If you think you're competent enough and you're really good with it, you could hit it with the Hex Flash and Dematerializer so that you can be consistently making the flash over the wall kind of plays. I'm really not that proficient with Hex Flash, so I just go with Second Wind Overgrowth, because I really don't like to be down in HP in lane. That's just my preference. That's just the way I like to play. If you're against a really heavy pushing lane, Dematerializer and Time Warp Tonic are also a good choice, but the secondary rune tree, all in all, really just up to preference. Almost anything works with Jax just because of his kit and his scalings. And when you're playing him, just walk up. Just walk up to the enemy bot lane with Counter-Strike up. That's how you do it. That's how you win. You just walk up with your E up. You hit them with the E, you get the stun, you get the electrocute, you ignite them, and then they are almost dead, and then you've won the lane. I know I've already said that, but that's really the most integral part, the most important part of playing Jax Support, is getting that early level 1 trade. So that's about it for Jax Support. You want to snowball out of control so that the enemy team wants to end their lives because they're losing to Jax Support. They FF15. And with the current environment, the current state of the league community, it's very easy to do. So yeah, get out there, young gun, get that LP. Blitzcrank top in the works. Subscribe if you want to check that out. And that's about it. I'll catch you later.